Hello, welcome back to Asian Cinema Season 2, and this will be the start of a number of reviews covering the movies of a certain Jackie Chan, starting with The Hand of Death, directed by the one and only John Woo. Now, I have seen a few John Woo movies, not his kind of classics, I think, like Hard Boiled and so on, but when I saw that this was on sale and it was directed by John Woo, starred Jackie Chan, I was all over it. This is a nice Nova Media release, and just beautiful cover. Like, I absolutely love the artwork on this. Really nice slip box, and then on the inside you have a very interesting cover, which, for all intents and purposes, sets up Jackie Chan as the main character. Yeah, not so much. This was released in 19... doesn't say on the back. Let's see if it says elsewhere on this release, because I can't remember off the top of my head what year it came out. It was in the 70s. I think early 70s. And so this is limited number 288 of 777. Not that that matters. We're here to talk about the movie. Enough of the Blu-ray. But I just love the artwork. I really do love that artwork. But all right, The Hand of Death. This is a film, like most of these martial arts movies, set in the time of all the martial artists and everything. It's a period film, but it's very much focused on there's a bad guy, and we're gonna send a martial artist out to fight him and defeat him, and that's about it. The plots of these things. You're not here for the plots. You're here for the action, and you're here for the fights. And this film opens with a number of kind of martial artists in training, and there is an evil man. I forget his name now. Shi, I think his name was, Shih, and I'm not going to try and pronounce or remember any of the character names or even the actors. But there's an evil man who's taking over town. There is one guy, Sammo Hung, I believe his name is. It might even say on here because one of the extras is an interview with the man himself. Yes, Sammo Hung. He plays one of the bad guys, and I've never seen someone look more like Ken Dodd and not like Ken Dodd. This is a thick, heavy-set Asian man with these buck teeth, and they're obviously fake, but he just utterly reminded me of Ken Dodd, which was so funny when you got this larger, man doing all these kind of like martial arts moves and stuff. I thought it was hilarious just based on that alone. But he was really good and a kind of fun villain for the film. But he was more one of the side characters, and then there's the big boss, the big kind of bad guy who has 6 bodyguards that need to be taken down. And so we follow the selected martial artist who's been told, you need to go and take down this guy, and, for kind of our honor and everything. And so we have our main character who's sent off to take down the bad guys, basically. And again, I watched this film like about a week ago, and just any of the finer elements of the plot, for the most part, have completely left my mind. There are these little details, like there's a character called the Wanderer, who came into town, and he's this expert swordsman, and he kind of fell in love with this prostitute, and then the big bad guy came in because he wanted to sleep with the same prostitute, and he ended up kind of manipulating the Wanderer into accidentally killing this woman with his own sword, and said to his men, don't kill him, let him live with the pain of this. And so the Wanderer has retired his sword. He's a brilliant martial artist, but he lives a life of misery now. And so our main character, he's kind of trying to figure out things. He's trying to get away into infiltrate the business of the big bad boss, which is probably a term you're going to hear a lot in these reviews, because I'm not going to remember their names or anything. And along the way he meets Jackie Chan, who at first seems like a bit of a bumbling fool. Later on we learn that he actually has a reason to take down the bad guy himself as well, because his brother was killed 3 years previously, and so he's been acting the fool to kind of, again, infiltrate and kind of get a kind of a nice position for himself to one day strike and take down the bad guys. And this all leads and builds to a climactic showdown where the 3 good guys and some other people who kind of tag along the way go out to take down the bad guys. It's pretty simple stuff. I loved the training sequences towards the end, especially where our main character... And again, I loved the guy who played the main character. He was really good. Like, his martial arts were great, and he just seemed believable to me as this character. There's a great scene in the training sequence where he's like kicking these watermelons off these strings, like really, really cool stuff, and also training to neutralize the big boss. Well, just call him the big boss, because he's like the boss battle of the movie, right? The whole film is building towards this climactic fight between our hero and our villain, the big boss. And the big boss is just like set up immediately to be like a fucking tank. Like, you can't penetrate his martial arts whatsoever. He is trained in everything. He is just so lethal and brutal, and we get a real sense of that in the film when we see him fighting, and they really build that up to someone who feels like, you know, he's unbeatable, basically. He's unstoppable. So they did a great job building him up, I thought, as a villain for the film. And so our hero has to kind of learn some new techniques, and the idea is to injure him so that he can't do his certain styles and things like that, and then they can take him down. So our hero is training with a method where he's trying to snap a bamboo stick that's been oiled up. And I think probably my favorite moment of the entire film, spoilers, he beats the bad guy at the end, is where, you know, he's fighting the bad guy. It's a really cool fight, some great kind of like, you know, extravagant flying kicks and the slow motion like foot against the face and everything. But finally, he grabs the bad guy's arm and he snaps it like a twig. But we don't see him snap the arm. As he grabs the arm and clenches, we cut to the previous training sequence and him snapping the bamboo stick. And so in place of seeing an arm get like, you know, fake cracked, we just see the actual bamboo stick, which is kind of a really fun visual. We can really see some cracking action without it being kind of like a grotesque practical effect where the bone snaps out of the arm or anything. And so he's just selling it like, oh, my arm. And you feel it because you've just seen that visual and that sound of the crunch, which I thought was probably the most effective part of the film. I really enjoyed it. You know, it dragged a little bit at times, as these films do tend to do. But I thought it was really quite good, and I enjoyed myself, and Jackie Chan gets a kind of dedicated fight sequence in there. It felt like they either ran out of money or just didn't really have many ideas for the ending, because the first 2/3 of the film, you have these like locations where it's like a palace, and like, you know, they're fighting in the grounds of this, you know, this big building. And then the third act of the film was like all back roads. Like, they just went up into the hills and just shot this on the cheap. Like, there's nothing dynamic about the locations in the last part of the film. It just felt very much like, let's just go up the hill and film the end of this movie, you know. And I'm not saying it was as haphazard or casual as that, but and you know, the choreography can't be faulted for the most part. At the beginning, actually, Sammo Hung is fighting all these guys, and like he his punch is like that far away from someone's face, and they're like, oh. And then I noticed, because I rewound the Blu-ray back to see the point where he punched, and there was like that much space between his fist and the guy's face, and I noticed that they were cutting out frames. So throughout the film, I'd kind of flicked a switch in my brain where it's like, okay, now I'm looking for it, and I can see they're cutting out frames to make some of the things, you know, quicker than they are, which is kind of actually a fun thing to see. Just from an editorial standpoint, I guess, isn't from an editor's point of view, it was interesting to see how those little frames here and there made a bit of a difference, but at the same time still came off as a little bit jerky. And me and Connie were really laughing over the title sequence of the film, in which all the martial artists, the good guys, are banded together, and our hero is like, I'll take on this task, and the master is like, show us this technique, show us that technique. And so he's doing the techniques as the credits roll and the music plays, and he's just doing all this really weird stuff where he's like, and he just looks ridiculous. He's like, like that. And I don't know, there's it just seems so like, who thought that looked cool? You know, like, there are some things where they do the moves with the fist like that, and they're doing all this and all that, and it looks badass and it looks really cool and kind of just like otherworldly. And then there are times where it just looks like a guy going like this, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, I would have stepped in and gone, okay, maybe don't do that. You look like a bit of a fucking idiot, and you're the hero of the film, so how about doing something a little bit more elegant? Or I don't know. Maybe it was based in maybe it was completely real martial arts, and it was kind of a traditional thing. I don't know, but it just looked a bit ridiculous and made me laugh more than anything else. So anyway, Hand of Death. Well, The Hand of Death. I think this has multiple titles, so don't quote me on that. This is the title this release was given anyway, The Hand of Death. And I believe that this is actually going to get a a proper Blu-ray release in the UK this year. This is the Nova Media release from 2017. It is an upscale from standard definition, unfortunately, but I actually thought it looked pretty good. Like, I was expecting like dog shit DVD quality. It was fairly decent, I have to say, so I was quite happy that it turned out to be a pretty good transfer for an upscale, you know, and I love the artwork, what can I say? But I really enjoyed the film too, so that's my thoughts on The Hand of Death. Next we're going to get into some proper prime Jackie Chan with Project A, so I'm really excited about that one, and that should be probably a movie vlog, more casual style, so look forward to that. Thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts down below if you've seen this film, or any thoughts you have about Jackie Chan's filmography as a whole, and I will see you in the next one.
He's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.